Good evening, friends. You are most welcome to Think Ice channel. Today we are discussing the ARC report Ethics in Governance. Sometimes before we discuss about the part 1 introduction part, now we are discussing further. Perhaps the most important determinant of the integrity of a society or the prevalence of corruption is the quality of politics. If politics attracts and rewards men and women of integrity, competence and passion of the public good, then the society is safe and integrity is maintained. But if honesty is incompatible with survival in politics, and if public life attracts undesirable and corrupt elements seeking private gain, then abuse of authority and corruption become the norm. In such a political culture and climate, desirable initiatives will not yield adequate dividends. Competition and decentralization certainly reduce corruption in certain sectors, but if the demand for corruption is fueled by inexhaustible appetite for illegitimate funds in politics, then other avenues of corruption will be forcibly opened up. As a result, even as corruption declines in certain areas, it shifts to others, sometimes more dangerous areas in which competition cannot be introduced and the state exercises a natural monopoly. What is needed with liberalization is corresponding political and governance reforms to alter the incentives in politics and public office and to promote integrity and ethical conduct. All forms of corruption are reprehensible and we need to promote a culture of zero tolerance of corruption, but some forms of corruptions are much more pernicious. Pernicious, pernicious. Some forms of corruptions are much more pernicious than others and deserve closer attention. In a vast majority of cases of bribery, the citizen is a victim of extortion and is compelled to pay a bribe in order to get a service to which he is entitled. Experience has taught most citizens that there is a vicious cycle of corruption operating and they often end up losing much more by resisting corruption. Delays, harassment, lost opportunity, loss of precious time and wages, uncertainty, and at times potential danger of loss of life or limb could result from resistance to corruption and non compliance with demands. In such cases, the citizen is an unwilling victim of coercive corruption, but there are several cases of collusion between the bribe giver and corrupt public servant. In such cases of collusive corruption, both parties benefit at immense cost to society, awarding of contracts for public works and procurement of goods and services, recruitment of employees, evasion of taxes, substandard projects, collusive violation of regulations, adulteration of foods and drugs, obstruction of justice and concealing or doctoring evidence in investigation are all examples of such dangerous forms of corruption. As the economy is freed from state control, extortionary corruption declines and collusive corruption tends to increase. We need to fashion strong and effective instruments to deal with this growing menace of collusive corruption, which is undermining the very foundation of our democracy and endangering society. Corruption is a global phenomenon and has also become a serious global concern. The United Nations Convention Against Corruption was adopted by the UN General Assembly in October 2003, providing an international instrument against corruption. The ADBOECD or we can say ADB OECD, Anti-Corruption Action Plan, which has been signed by the Government of India, is a broad understanding to further the cause of inter-regional cooperation in the matter of prevention of corruption. The World Bank has also declared war against corruption by refusing to fund projects whose implementation is tainted by corrupt practices. At the annual meeting of International Monetary Fund and the World Bank Group in Singapore in 2006, a joint statement was issued with major multilateral financial institutions agreeing on framework for preventing and combating fraud and corruption in the activities and operation of their institutions. In India, some recent anti corruption initiatives are steps in the right direction. The Supreme Court has ruled that candidates contesting elections should file details regarding their wealth, educational qualification, and criminal antecedents along with their nomination papers. The Right to Information Act, which has recently been enacted, is a potential or is a potent weapon to fight corruption. The introduction of the information communication technologies, e-governance initiatives, and automation of corruption-prone processes in administrations have succeeded in reducing corruption. Much more remains to be done, however, and beyond the realm of existing regulation, the escalation levels of corruption in various segments of our economy, resulting in large scale generation of black money, serious economic offenses and fraud, and money laundering, lending even to the funding of terrorist activities against the state, have created a grave situation which needs to be dealt with severely. Benami property of corrupt public servants need to be forfeited, as also the assets illegally required from as also the assets illegally acquired from corrupt practices. Whistleblower legislation has to be put in place to protect informants against retribution. Also, we have to suitably strengthen the institutional framework for investigating corrupt practices and awarding exemplary punishment to the corrupt, thereby raising the risk associated with corrupt behavior. Ethics in governance, however, has a much wider important role. Ethics in governance, however, has a much wider import than what happens in the different arms of the government, and across the board effort is needed to fight deviation from ethical norms. Such an effort needs to include corporate ethics and ethics in business. In fact, there should be a paradigm shift from the pejorative business ethics to ethics in business. There is need for ethics in every profession, voluntary organization, and civil society structure, as these entities are now vitally involved in the process of the governance. Finally, there should be ethics in citizen behavior because such ethics and such behavior impinges directly on ethics in government and administration. Thank you very much.